The Water Bug, copyrighted by Marie D. Henry. Jessica loved the open fields of her father's farm. There she could gather lots and lots of wildflowers, but there was a very special place where she loved to play when she was not roaming the fields. That special place was none other than the brook that ran across the farm just a mile from the house. Her father always said that without its cool, clear water, he would not have a farm. The brook supplied the drinking water for the cows, horses, and sheep that lived on the farm with Jessica and her family. For her, it was a place of mystery. She never tired of sitting on its banks or on one of the many tree snags that made bridges across its mysterious depths. While her brothers loved to catch the trouts that lived in the shadowy depths of its pools, Jessica loved the mystery of the brook. To her, it held treasures. Every time she spent an afternoon playing there, she learned something new about the wonders of nature and life. Whenever she spied a brook trout sleeping in the shadow of a big rock or one of the snags, she felt a thrill go through her. She knew from seeing them after her brothers caught them that they were beautifully colored, and she called them the flowers of the brook. She wished that they could live there always with never anything harmful happening to them. So Jessica would sit and watch the trout as they moved their tails in slow motion to keep from being taken out of the cool, shadowy pools by the pull of the running water. The brook trout were fascinating to her, but there was something that lived there that was to become even more fascinating. It came to her one hot July afternoon. The water made a soft gurgling sound as it fell over a root of the tree snag that Jessica was resting on. She watched the water turn into white bubbles before it rushed off around a bend and out of her sight. Behind her, the 3-inch deep water was still that it looked like a mirror reflecting the blue sky. She knew how deep it was because she had walked in it to cool off before making herself comfortable on the snag to watch the trouts. Suddenly, there was a loud splash in the water behind her. She turned just in time to see another trout disappearing into the still water. For several minutes, she watched the splash rings spread out over the water surface in bigger and bigger circles. They got fewer and fewer, and the water returned to its glass-like smoothness. But Jessica did not turn back to the little waterfall. She saw a large object on the still water that had not been there before. Carefully, she slipped her bare feet into the cool water and slowly began to wade towards the black object. It moved away from her. She kept going towards it. When the object again moved further away, she stopped. She stood very still. Jessica waited for what seemed to her to be a very long time. She was close enough to see that the black object was some kind of bug, but it was not something she had seen before. She wondered if a trout would jump up and eat it. However, nothing happened. The bug just stood there on top of the water. Jessica was very surprised to see that. She thought that something under the water might be keeping it from sinking. By all the understanding she had of the natural world that she had come to know in her short life, she knew that water could not be walked on. Things floated on water, and people she knew could float only when they learned how to keep from sinking. She fully expected to see the bug sink into the water or be snapped up by a trout. She waited and waited, but nothing happened. The brook babbled cheerfully as it ran down its course. The sun got hotter and hotter as Jessica waited, which made the water that covered her feet feel even cooler. The bug just was not going to move. She turned to go back to her seat when she noticed the bug moving ever so slowly towards her. She stood as still as her excitement would let her. She could not believe her eyes. The bug had actually walked on the surface of the water. It came closer and closer. Jessica stood real still that she might scare it away. When the bug was only a few inches from her, she could see how it could walk on the water. At the end of its long spider-like legs were feet that looked like tiny dinner plates. As she looked closer, she saw that the surface of the water was bent in little hollows under each plate feet. The surface was like a strong, clear sheet turning the water of the brook into a firm surface for the bug to walk on. Jessica watched and watched the strange bug as it walked with ease anywhere it wanted to go. As she watched, she understood how the plate-like feet or the bug worked to keep it on top of the water. It was wearing a pair of water shoes. In the wintertime, when the snow was soft and deep, she wore a pair of snowshoes to walk on top of the snow. They were much bigger than her own small feet and used the surface of the snow to keep her from sinking down into it, just like the bug's feet were keeping it on top of the water. Soon, in her imagination, Jessica saw herself walking on the water with the water bug. For a long time, she visited with the bug and learned from it the wonders of life on the surface of the brook. that ran across her father's farm. After that afternoon, she spent lots of time visiting the brook, and every time she did, she learned something new. But despite all the wonders she found, the water bug remained the best one of all. The trout were living flowers, living in the brook, shadowy places. But the water bug was the mystery that gave Jessica fleet feet in her imagination that let her walk on the water too.